Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moonlight. This is Dave Johnson, channeling Man in the Moon. If you're like me, you've been looking at things like the New York Times, and it looks like everything's terrible. Dems just had this terrific victory. It's pretty clear, we're gonna take the next election by storm. It keeps being true that the polls are wrong, and you just wonder, how is that possible? This is just my opinion, but there's two things going on with the New York Times. Number one, they want to sell newspapers, and saying everything's going to be okay is not going to make people read or subscribe, is it? It's also true that they are being patriotic. They made a mistake before in not taking Trump seriously, and they want us all to be a little bit worried, so we'll go out and vote. I want to take a look today and just see what's going on here. The polls seem to be constantly inaccurate, and everybody keeps saying doom, 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 Joe Biden, doom. I'm not really buying that, but let's take a look. Believe me, I can be wrong. So, starting out, let's just do something a little less emotional. Look at the Senate. Keep in mind there's a big deal of time between now and then, so again, I could be wrong, but this is what I'm asking Spirit to show us. Okay, so the question is, will the Senate go red or blue? And I think I should look at the Senate and then the House. Or how many points will shift? What are the numbers? Okay. It's funny because I almost see Joe Manchin as like a half person, half Democrat, half Republican. I don't think he is really half either way, but here we go. So I always see these things on kind of a almost like I'm looking at a clock. Okay, so I'll start out by saying I don't think this is super accurate. I don't think it's totally clear yet how this is going to shake down. But my feeling is that the Republicans will lose two seats. Again, it's a little bit unclear. It's almost like there's blue and there's red, and there's this sort of empty space of unknowns. So let's see if we can get another image here. A little bit of confirmation. I'm seeing two Republicans with sort of a line across them, like they're out. And of course, there's Joe Manchin in there with his nose in the air, saying, "Well, I have to go." I my general feeling is let's take a look again. I keep seeing Marsha Blackburn of Kentucky, and I see her getting booted out. Okay, so just the Senate now. A little bit harder to do because I have an emotional connection to this. Dave, put your feelings aside. What's going to happen? Well, I am seeing Eric Swalwell and others kind of going, yes, victory. Chuck Schumer going, victory. Yeah, it seems like it is significantly successful. And I'm getting a feeling now that it would actually be more than two. It could even be five for the Dems. This would be really helpful because then they'd have a supermajority. Yeah, Chuck Schumer is really cheering me on. My feeling is good for the Democrats. If you look at the last election, this is not so psychic. Anybody could look at that and say this is a template for America. The Republicans did terribly, and we know why, right? Because they're poor leaders, and they're taking people's rights away, and they'll take more of them away if we don't stop them. So there's nothing else to see here. Just look at the last, most recent elections. Let's like look at the House. Let's see what happens. Lauren Boebert is clearly going. That's the first thing I see, and it's like she's like this, and like, bing. Okay, look, even her own party hates her. She's humiliating everybody. They're not going to back her. Trump's backing isn't worth anything anymore. It's a liability. I'm seeing an angry MTG. Have no love lost there. Okay, but let's look at the overall numbers. And again, there's a lot of them, so it's going to be a little harder. Okay, I'm seeing that sort of pie slice. So the pie slice kind of goes, it is blue on this side, and so it's, here they're at the slight loss, and it's gray in the middle. So it kind of just goes blue. I want to say getting two numbers here, 6 and 34. And I think somewhere in there is the Democrat majority. Just to be sure, Spirit, will Democrats win the House? Again, I'm getting to the crying Boeberts, angry MTGs. It seems more significant that the really right wing of the Republican Party is no longer powerful. That's just the impression I get. I see a number of them and they're all angry. They're just angry. There's nothing more that they have to offer the American people. And maybe I'm just going to ask this because I think it's important. Why? What's going to change, or what are the reasons that the Dems will take the House? Obviously, abortion. I'm seeing people in front of the Supreme Court, but it's not just the abortion. It's everything that represents a woman's right to her body, the rights of gay and lesbian people. It's a whole kind of idea that they're losing. And I keep getting Joe Manchin. He is actually a really good example of everything. Take a look at Joe. It's just kind of like saying his time has passed. This type of person is no longer, viable for a candidate. And it's when I say this type of person, I really do mean a very selfish person, because that's how I perceive him. He drives a sports car, has millions and millions of dollars. Both of those are okay, but he's also, working with a place that's destroying and killing his people. It's just about money. And I think that's another thing, is that people who are in difficult circumstances aren't really appreciating these behaviors anymore. They're not. They're knowing. They're coming to the knowledge that they are subject to the power of a very small percentage of people who don't really know the real world. So let's just take a look at polls, especially around Biden. Why are the polls often wrong here? It's just old-fashioned. I'm seeing a person on a landline. It's just old-fashioned. But the polls keep being wrong. They've been wrong for 8 years, but we still look at the polls. So what use are they? All I can say is they're just old-fashioned. Who uses a landline? Most of the people they contact are retirees who answered the landline phone. And, if they called you on your cell phone, you wouldn't answer. So that's the people that they're talking to. And there is an agenda. Part of the agenda is to make the polls appear a certain way to get a reaction out of us, because it sells. Last thing is Joe Biden. People keep underestimating Joe, and people keep saying, well, he looks this way and he's very old. Yeah, it's true. I wish we had a younger candidate, and heck, I wish I was younger. It's just, yeah, that would be fine, and perhaps more appealing to the American voters, and that's important. But you know what? That guy's really wise. He has had a lot of experience. I may not agree with everything he does. He's not nearly as progressive as I would like him to be, but he is going to be a far better diplomat and much more likely to solve the problem in the Middle East, or at least put it on hold again as it was before, than anybody else who is anywhere near the power. So at least, Biden is an honest person. At least Biden is a person who cares about other people. At least he cares about the United States and the people of the world. So there you go. Somebody who actually cares about you is better than somebody who doesn't. And I think that is a significant point that, again, these polls are missing. Nobody believes that Donald Trump cares about them. They might like the power. That's anything else about he keeps showing up like, yeah, I won. And I do think that there are a few things that are going to happen between now and the election that really will help. And it will it's almost like his moment in the sun. It's like his last hurrah, or a culmination of all of the things that he has learned. I couldn't be that diplomatic. It's important to notice that he is very much a experienced person who will think things through before he does anything, and who will behind the scenes, put pressure on the right people. He supports democracies. That's very important. It might not seem important for looking at the media. That's because it's not that attractive. It doesn't get your emotions going crazy. It's just a feeling of a bit more safety. We would not want Trump in the White House dealing with the Russian invasion or the crisis in the Middle East or any crisis as we have seen. And while people might be annoyed and angry and reflect some of that, and not like the fact that there is inflation, etc., they, I think, will not ultimately blame Biden for the problems. I think that they will accept that a lot of his work has been a brilliant success. The American economy is strong, and I'm kind of seeing the employment rate, which is extraordinarily low right now. This is the most important economic factor for the average person, although inflation is a terrible curse that he will have to fight. I'm now seeing him break the inflation thing. Remember, if the war in Russia ends, inflation will likely end. That's it. Yeah, that is what Spirit tells me today. Thanks so much for watching.